right, it is 6 o'clock. I will call this meeting to order. 6 p.m. So we can do the roll call.
Alderman Boywood, second ward.
Rob Pabon, Fifth Ward.
Richard Leja, 3rd Ward. And would the guests like to give their names?
My name is Eli Herman.
Police Chief Michael Sinaiwe.
Okay. All right, so we'll start out with the only thing we're here for is the presentation from the police
Okay.
department.
So I provided you with a copy for each of the 3 aldermen of our report. I'm not gonna read it word for word. You can obviously read it yourself. I'll just go through it page by page and hit on the bullet points. If there are any questions regarding information that may not be in this report, I will take note of it and get back to you with an answer, because I may not have all the answers covered in here. So the first page is our mission statement that we have as a police department. It's hanging in the lobby of the police department. It's also in our rules and regulation manual. The second page in this is the adoption of the shared principles that we received, that we put in order. The third page is the Illinois Chiefs of Police Association accreditation of our use of force policy and de-escalation tactics. So it's our use of force certification. So we're within the chief's purview. The next page is just a little synopsis of some of the departments in our police department. Police administration, patrol operations, criminal investigations, youth investigations, tactical investigations, task force investigations, traffic investigations, annual training and mandated training, evidence processing, body camera maintenance, telecommunications, information services, community service, booking, auxiliary police, and there's a few other things that we have. So the first is, the next page is our patrol operations. Patrol is the backbone of the police agency. Under the patrol division, we have 3 shifts. There's 3 watch commanders, 4 supervisors on each shift, include 5 with, if you count the watch commander, and then patrol officers. The traffic unit falls under patrol operations. All the shifts have evidence technicians assigned to them. The canine service dogs work with the shifts. All the officers are trained in crisis intervention, and every officer is equipped with a body camera. The second part of that is our canine officers. We have 3 canine dogs and officers that locate narcotics, people, and evidence. So we use those on the shift. The next page is we belong to the Illinois Law Enforcement Alarm System, ILEAS. So when we have a big event or call coming that happens and we need additional manpower, we call the dispatch company, and we call a certain level. Every level, up to 10 levels, has 5 officers. So we call a level whatever we need. If we need 15 officers, we call a level 3. And the surrounding towns all send police officers to our jurisdiction to help us. That's in disasters and just stuff that we have going on. We also belong to NIPUS. In fact, one of my executive commander is the commander for NIPUS. NIPUS is the Northern Illinois Police Alarm System. So there's 2 factions to NIPUS. One is the hostage barricade HBT team, and the other is the mobile field force. When we have civil unrest or big stuff, we call the mobile field force, and usually they all respond. But we have used both of these in the past, and like I said, our commander, my executive commander, is the commander for the HBT team. So he runs all the SWAT stuff for NIPUS for the alarm system. Then we break it down, we have a criminal investigations unit that focuses on adult crime. Everything that comes in and is reported to the police department gets followed up on. Criminal investigations deals mainly with adults. The forensic unit works out of criminal investigations. We have a supervisor who's in charge of managing the entire evidence room, all the recovered narcotics, guns, money, stolen property. He also falls into the preservation of the body cam footage and everything that we need with that. Then we move into the youth investigations unit, which is a bunch of investigators who deal with crimes involving juvenile offenders, juvenile victims. They focus on the child's best interest. They are participating in, we call it ICAC, it's Internet Crimes Against Children. That's when we have children being trafficked over the internet. We've been involved in several investigations with that. And then we also use, through them, Proviso Children's Advocacy Center. So anytime we interview a victim with, or we need to interview a victim, a juvenile victim, whether it's for a criminal investigation or a domestic investigation or sexual investigation, we do it through Proviso because they do the forensic interviews with the kids. That moves us into the tactical unit. We have specialized officers who are specially trained in drug, street gangs, wanted persons in intelligence development. They conduct surveillance and they try to get involved and embed themselves in gang problem and drug problems in neighborhoods. That moves us into the task forces. We have officers assigned to all of the federal task forces, FBI, U.S. Marshals Service, DEA, HIDA, ATF, and HSI. HSI, our officer in HSI mainly deals in the money laundering avenue of it. And by being in all of these federal task forces, it opens us up to additional resources, and it also gives us an opportunity to seize or take a percentage of any funds that are seized, and we can put those in asset forfeiture, and we can use that money for buying police cars or equipment or training or stuff to fight the narcotics distribution industry. We have 3 full-time school resource officers assigned to Morton West. They conduct off-campus well-being checks and mediations and interventions with kids who are refusing to go to school. They also lead educational workshops and training and classes for kids and parents. We also have 2 school resource officers who are involved with the middle schools, and they teach GATE, Gang Awareness Training Education, in the middle schools. So we have 5 altogether. 3 are specifically assigned to the high school, and we get compensated from the school district to cover their salaries. Next page, we belong to WestStaff. WestStaff is the West Suburban Major Crimes Task Force. It's several police agencies where they respond to homicides and fatal car accidents. So they have two versions. One is they have WestStaff investigators, and then they have WestStaff forensics. So it's 2 groups of investigators, and then they have WestStaff major auto accidents, and they're generally always fatalities. all of the investigators with the crash are accident reconstructionists that have been trained and certified through Northwestern Public Safety. That brings us to Wedge. Wedge is the West Suburban Enhanced Drug and Gang Enforcement. That's a group of 7 communities. We are our commander of the tactical unit commands Wedge, and each agency provides 1 or 2 officers on certain days of the week, and they go out and they try to flood the gang areas in all the surrounding communities. And our communities, every community provides an area of interest or need. And then they also have the wanted flyers, or the people of interest flyers, or people that they're looking for, and we try to pick people up on investigations for the other agencies. Brings us to training. Our training unit focuses on crisis intervention training, emergency medical response training, law updates, officer wellness, firearms qualifications, sexual assault trauma-informed response training, constitutional and proper law training, cultural competency, civil rights, procedural justice, reporting child abuse and neglect, use of force, all weapons and impact weapons and non-lethal force and deadly force that we have. A lot of these are annual required training, and our training officers are all certified to train everybody in this, and they do this on a yearly basis with most of this stuff. We have required mandates that we have to follow. All of our officers go through what we call a block training. It's with once a year. They're all assigned to a 40-hour block of training in which we do scenarios and all kinds of weapons, lethal and non-lethal, and all of our annual training is covered in the block training. We also, through Police Law Institute, train once a month, online training. Every officer has to go online, sign in, go through the training, and take the test. So that's on a monthly basis. We have community service officers. They're not sworn. Police officers are civilians. They work as graffiti removal, animal control officers, parking enforcement officers. We also utilize them on major accidents to direct traffic or block streets when we have fires and stuff like that. We have implemented a social worker policy or program. So we have 2 social workers who work in-house. In fact, they respond to calls to talk to people in the field. They work with crisis intervention. They have resource coordination for mental health, addiction, and housing assistance. If we have somebody who we have to do a petition to have them admitted into the hospital, be evaluated, social workers help us out, take care of all that. They provide support to victims for child abuse and domestic violence. We work hand in hand. They work hand in hand with Youth Crossroads, also in town, and they also work with our youth investigations. We have an auxiliary police contingency consisting of approximately 65 auxiliary police officers. Auxiliary officers are non-sworn, they're non-conservators of the peace. We use them mainly for parades and big events, just to deter crime, deter people. We do use them to transport prisoners. If we have a prisoner who needs medical attention, depending on what they're being held for, if it's a homicide, we don't use them, but we will use auxiliary to sit on prisoners at the hospital, so we don't have to have a full-time officer sitting on that. Unless it's for a major incident like a homicide, then we would have a full-time officer. But we use the auxiliary officers to respond to loud parties, noise disturbances, some types of calls that we would send a full-time officer to if it continued to migrate, where we would have to issue a local ordinance citation or make an arrest. But for the most part, just knock on the door and ask somebody to turn the music down the first time. The auxiliary can do that just fine.
Of course, unless you have some challengers in the party.
And if that's the case,
Then you call it
then they call
sworn.
for full-time officers, and the sworn officers go
So
over
take
there.
over.
And they take over the call. And then we would use the auxiliary, like we've had major parties where we've arrested 40 or 50 people and brought them into the station because they're all drinking and underage. We would use the auxiliaries to transport them into the station, and then just stand by in the station to make sure that nothing gets out of hand. And they go through a rigorous training to become an auxiliary officer. They go through the 40 hours of mandated firearms training. We put on a training academy, like 4 hours a night in the evening. We bring in NEMERT instructors from Northeast Metropolitan Training Center, that they come in and they teach the auxiliaries on certain classes, and then we have our in-house instructors do some of the other stuff.
And in the summertime, you can see them doing it in the parking lot.
Yes, that's it. Online reporting, we've added some online reporting where the citizens can reach out to us online, and they can request a report. It'll be followed up by a full-time officer. All they can do is request a report online, and it's only for certain crimes or certain things. But a full-time officer does follow up with the person requesting the online report. We started a video sharing partnership program where people can register their cameras with the police department, so we can share they can share videos with us. It's it assists us when we are trying to conduct surveillance in certain areas, and it helps us with solving crimes and identifying suspects. We have a communications department that consists of 19 telecommunicators. Our telecommunicators are all state certified to emergency medical dispatch. They are working towards achieving 100% of community emergency response program. So they're the ones who, whether you call 911 or call the non-emergency number, they're the ones you get. They take the information first, they put it into the system, then it's dispatched to patrol units on the street. We have information services. If you've ever come into the station to get a report, this is who you would deal with. They process the payments for all the tickets that are collected, parking tickets, traffic violations, local ordinance violations, compliance tickets. They manage the online payment system, track the fines. They provide administrative support for local municipal court services. They run our municipal court. They also manage the police aspect of the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. They're responsible for processing the requests for public records, and they review and manage all of our records and documents. They also they review and request the compliance with the law and ensure the release of non-confidential information. Another thing that we've instrumented is the flat camera system. We put, I think it's 20 cameras throughout the outskirts of Berwyn, in different areas throughout the city. And what that does is it's a LPR system, a license plate reader. So when a vehicle passes by a camera that's wanted for a homicide, wanted for an abduction, stolen, it'll hit on our flock cameras and send us a message, and then we can dispatch the vehicle matching a stolen vehicle just pass through the flock system, and we can have units go into the area and look for it. We have utilized this system to resolve several crimes and track several homicide people down. We had a homicide up on Roosevelt Road. We used this system, and we also used the cell phones to track the offenders all the way in the city. We have Mark 43, which is a new program with us. It's a new CAD and RMS program. So CAD is computer-aided dispatch, and RMS is record management. It's a cloud-based system. We are the first town or village or city in Illinois to go completely to a cloud-based system. So we're pretty excited about that. We just switched over about 5 months ago, so we're still getting our beaks wet with it and figuring it out, and but it seems to be working rather well. Booking, that brings us to booking. Booking or lockup, however you want to call it. We recently have put intergovernmental agreements together and worked out with some of our neighboring villages. McCook, Forest View, Brookfield, Riverside, North Riverside, Brookfield Zoo, and the Secretary of State Police. We house their prisoners for them. They pay us a set fee. They bring their prisoners to us. If we have a transport car of auxiliaries on the street, we can go to them and get their prisoners and bring them. Obviously, there's a fee every time we transport a prisoner. We then house their prisoners, and then we take them to bond hearing, and so we charge them for housing, and then we also charge these agencies for transporting the prisoners to bond hearing. So, but it really has solidified our relationship with our surrounding communities. We are in the process of building a dispatch center that's tied to our current building. Right now we have 4 dispatchers that work out of our dispatch center. The new center will have 8 dispatch councils. We are planning on trying to consolidate and take on another agency. That's all stuff that we have to work out between the 911 board. We have had some agencies already reach out for us and express interest in consolidating with us. Obviously, the consolidation laws with the state change from time to time. Right now, I believe it's at 50,000, so we just made the threshold. We didn't have to consolidate, but if they raise them, we're gonna have to be forced to consolidate. I like keeping the dispatchers under our control. It's a better feeling for our people. It's a better service that we offer to our residents. I hear I've talked to some people that use consolidated dispatchers. Other word, we give a better service. You don't always get what, just because it looks good on paper doesn't always work good for the community. So we're trying to keep the best we can for our residents here in town. The next part is grants. There's a list of grants that we have received last year, totaling $1,063,668.35. Included in that is the bulletproof vest grant, which pays for our officers' bulletproof vests. If they wanna enhance the vest, they have to pay the additional fees out of their own pocket. It's the Illinois Traffic Grant, for the IDOT enforcement, so that's the seat belts and the DUI checks. All of those officers are working under grants. The state loves it because, they do a very, very good job, and those are the people not wearing a seatbelt, the child enforcement, the kids are not in the safety seats and stuff like that. So it all works towards, for the grants. We've gotten radar units, our, the social worker initiative came out of the grant money. The retail theft grant, we got some cameras for stuff that we needed. We do a tobacco grant where, we get some underage kids to go into places and buy cigarettes and see if the establishments will sell the cigarettes to the kids. And if they do, we go in and we write them a ticket. If they don't, you know, we don't want them to, but sometimes they do. That brings us to our community relations unit. Our community relations unit falls under our youth investigations unit. They have a crucial role in fostering a relationship between police department and the community. They focus on educating the public about crime prevention and safety. They use educational efforts. The unit organizes police-led community events such as the annual picnic, the open house events. The events allow residents to interact with our officers and in a more casual setting, promoting positive engagement, promoting trust. They participate in local community events hosted by schools and parks. I can't tell you how many times that we've had people, officers, go up and read in that Dr. Seuss reading thing at the North Bourne Park District. They put the cat in the hat on and they sit down and they read to all the kids. Throughout the summer, they attend all kinds of block parties, fostering the relationships with the residents. So we're constantly working with the community. We created an honor guard. So our police department has 10 dedicated police officers who are members of the honor guard. We have participated in several significant ceremonial events, especially with the military, funerals, public gatherings, parades. We have our own therapy dog, Officer Romeo. Romeo lives at the police station. I see him every day. He comes in every day for a cookie with me. But we use Romeo, we take him to all the schools. We take him to the, Morton has that special ed section at Morton High School. Romeo goes over there and interacts with all the special ed kids. We take them to the middle schools, we take them to the grammar schools. Like every now and then we'll walk them through the hospital in the children's wing of the hospital. He does really well. And then we have our Police Explorer program. Our Police Explorer program is for the young adults ages 14 to 20, those who are interested in law enforcement. You have to be 14 to 20, you have to be in high school. And they work with us. The program gives them personal awareness of the criminal justice system. We train them, we put them through practical experiences. They compete with other agencies and other activities. Promotes personal growth and character development. So, that's, I'm sure I missed a few things, but that's pretty much what the report is gonna tell you.
Okay, so one thought came to mind. In the Explorers, is that like a feeding program into, do many of them go on into
Some of them will go on and become auxiliary officers. Some of those who become auxiliary officers use it as a stepping stone to move on to be a full-time officer somewhere. We just had a couple of detectives from Oak Brook out here to check a file. One of our auxiliary officers applied for a position as a full-time officer in Oak Brook. So they use the Explorer program to get to the auxiliary program, and the auxiliary program to get to the full-time positions.
Okay. Alderman, do you have any questions?
I do not.
We do send representatives to the different colleges to represent Berwyn for like the employment or the job awareness fairs. So we have been known to send our detectives, our juvenile department, they respond to that. And they go out there and they set up and they hand out flyers and stuff. We also have internships that we have the kids who are in college for law enforcement. They have to do an internship. We have an internship program that we let them, we put them through, manage that through our juvenile division.
So this is very incredibly comprehensive, so I'm sure after we go through it, we may have questions, and Alderman Pabon, I'll put yours into your.
I have questions right now. I have
Okay.
questions now.
Okay, and I'll put this copy of yours into your mailbox.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Alderman Leja, and thanks, Chief, for the report. I just had a couple of questions. So one question was around the officers at the middle schools. Is that in both school districts?
Yes, sir.
And that's for the, you were talking about a gang intervention or gang education training that they give?
Gate, yes.
Yeah, and can you let me know a little bit about where that curriculum comes from? Is that something that you guys worked with the school districts on? Is it something through something you guys have through a grant or in-house? I just wanted to learn a little bit more about that if you have information.
So the state used to do DARE, and at some point in time over the last 15 or 20 years, they realized that DARE wasn't accomplishing what they expected it to accomplish, and they developed this program called GATE, Gang Awareness Training Education. So we transitioned from DARE probably about 20 years ago, and we moved into this GATE field.
Okay, and is that, from your knowledge, I know that's a state training, is it updated regularly? Are you guys seeing some over the years that it's it's being revised and looked at?
So as far as I know, it's all updated regularly, and all of our school resource officers have to go and get certified to be school resource officers. We can't just pick and choose somebody to put in the school. We actually have to send them through training, and they have to become certified. They have to be certified juvenile officers and certified school resource officers.
Thanks, Chief. And then another question I have, it's great to hear some updates on the social workers. I know you mentioned the 2 social workers that we have with the department and some of the things that they're focusing on and that they do in their role. Have y'all thought about them supporting, I know you mentioned that they support Youth Crossroads and maybe another organization, but in the colder months when, we have limited warming centers in our city, have you all thought about them being more present at the library? I know that there's been a lot of folks who take kind of shelter there in the colder days, and just wondering with their backgrounds and relationships with, Vets Plus, Housing Forward, if there could be a little bit more, and maybe this is happening already, but more strategy around some of those colder days for them to be more present in those spaces as the library is taking in, folks from the community that are trying to stay warm.
Funny you should bring that up, because I have been in conversations within the past few weeks with Tammy Sheedy, the director of the library. So we were having an issue with McNeil dropping people off at the library, and then they were just sitting there and didn't want to leave at closing time. The social workers have gotten involved in it, and we are working with McNeil to figure that problem out and stop it from happening. So it hasn't happened now in a couple of weeks.
That's great. That sounds good. Just in terms of, responsiveness, that's good. But just in terms of having a presence there, it might be good to think about that on those really freezing days that we have, even outside of, McNeil or any other entity being involved. And then I just wanted to ask about just the social workers in general. I know it's been a couple years now since they've been on, and just wanted to hear from you, in your perspective, whether it's, qualitatively, anecdotally, or any data that you might have around just like how impactful that's been. I know that's something that, folks are really happy about, to have more of a trauma informed response and some folks that can handle issues in the community with that lens. And so just wanted to hear from you. I know you shared some of the things that they're doing, but how's that been going? Do you think we could be using them in more strategic ways? What have been kind of your thoughts on how it's gone?
It's been a slow start. I mean, they don't want to get themselves in a position where they get hurt, and sometimes when we're on calls, we have to bring them out to the calls, and we have to stand by them while they're working with the individual who needs the help. We have done that. They are very beneficial to us. They help us in many different ways at the station. And they do follow up with all the domestics also, all the domestic victims, crime victims. They follow up with all of them. If we have an individual who needs placement, they have followed up with them and they've placed them in hospitals, or they've helped try to locate a bed for them to sleep in. So they have worked with Beds Plus and some other different resources that they have available at their fingertips. Even though they work out of our station, they are only our contracted employees. They work for Advent Health, I believe. We get them from, I think their supervisor is, her last name's Kirkavella. I don't know, I can't remember her first name off the top of my head, but they're only contracted. That's why we've had a changeover with them, because when they find another job that they would prefer, they move on to another part of their career, and we get a new social worker working by us. Okay.
And you mentioned them being with Advent and contracted out. Is there someone specific on the department that is sort of the liaison for them on our end?
Yes, it was the deputy chief. He was the liaison with the health company that they work for, and I believe now it might be Mike Fellows. I'm not sure, Commander Fellows, but we definitely have a liaison that works with their contracted bosses.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have for now, and Rich, thank you for sharing the report with me in my mailbox. I'll definitely look at it, and if I have any more, I'll reach out. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I've had a few with the social workers. So we have 2 now.
We've always had 2.
Okay, and are we going to, will it stay at 2?
As far right now, yeah, it's going to have to.
Okay.
It costs. We don't have the money to add a 3rd.
Okay. And do they stay there? Are they there all the time?
They work. One works during the morning, 8 to 2, or 6 to 2, and then one works in the afternoon from 2 to 10. Okay. And then they're on call, where if we have something that happens over the midnight shift, we can call one of them and they can meet us at the scene.
And is their area secure in case they have to bring someone in?
There is, and in this, the construction at the police station, they have a secure office. Eventually, when the construction's done, they will have a secure office where they can bring somebody in from the courtroom, talk to them in the office, and then give them access to the lobby to leave without ever entering into the secured police station.
Alderman Whitewood? Okay, after we go through this, I'm sure we'll come up with things. But, OT, you have some
I do have questions.
questions? Okay, great.
So to confirm, social workers are not going on domestic violence calls.
No,
They're never there to de-escalate in any situation with an officer.
they haven't been yet, no.
Okay, understood.
They do follow up with all the domestic violence victims.
Yeah, the follow, I absolutely heard, and fantastic. I had a question on the video sharing program.
Okay,
So is that private ownership, like a private citizen could share their camera with the police department?
yes, we have a program whereas if you have a camera on your house, like a Ring doorbell,
Yeah.
you wanted to share that with the police department, you can sign up for the program and it would allow us access to share your video.
My question is a concern about unintentionally surveilling private property. So, for example, if I'm in my backyard or in my house, I have a reasonable expectation
Of
of...
privacy.
Correct. Now, if these cameras are pointed in a way that goes onto my property or something like that, how would I know? How would I know if my neighbor's camera is pointed in my way and then you see something that you decide is a crime in this scenario, and you've been looking at something that maybe you don't have legal license to see?
That's a good question, and I don't have an answer for you.
Fair enough. Moving on, I had a couple questions on the building itself.
Yeah.
So one of the questions is, were there any independent audits or cost-benefit analysis conducted to determine if the renovation was necessary? And before that, I'll start with, I don't have to pack it, so I don't really know everything in regards to the renovation and restoration of the building.
Okay, there's not a lot in the report about the renovation and restoration.
Understood, okay.
It did bring us up to a state-of-an-art facility. We do have a new training area where we can train our officers. We can also host classes which would allow our officers to get additional training. We have a new records area. We moved some things around. We have a state-of-the-art evidence processing area
Okay.
that we needed.
And I think you mentioned it also gave space for the social work team now,
It
right?
gave us space for the social worker's office.
When it is completed, will there be an open house?
There is gonna be there's a planned open house this year. But when it is completed, we will probably set something up before the open house to give a tour.
Okay.
Okay, were there any cuts to community programs or other city services to fund the project of the renovation?
Not to my knowledge.
Perfect. Was there any public input or oversight on the renovation plans before the funds were allocated for it?
I don't recall that. It was a couple of years ago. This has been a project and it was coupled with body cameras that were an unfunded mandate, and we needed a new CAD and RMS system. It was it was compiled with a bunch of other projects, and we were just trying to keep everything moving forward.
Absolutely, and to be clear, that's a question because I'm a new resident. I wasn't here for these, so I'm asking the backup stuff, so I appreciate that, thank you. Question is, were there any local contractors used, or was this outsourced to kind of larger corporations, the construction specifically?
The construction is outsourced to a large corporation, and then they outsourced to independent contractors for whatever.
For like materials and,
For whatever
Local.
job, like,
Yeah.
plumbing, carpentry, masonry, that was all and we didn't handle that. I believe the construction company handled all that.
so they did independent tradespeople,
Mhm.
okay, understood. Will the public be given access to documents detailing the renovation contracts and any potential conflicts of interest?
I don't even know where those are. I don't have those.
Okay. Yeah, the concern is just that we want to be sure that we see what's going on, it's all transparent, and there's no conflict of interest of any sort. So, all right, I'm going to put a question. Okay. And I just was curious, let me just move on here to... Does the department plan to increase or decrease its presence in marginalized communities now that the renovation is complete. And to that, I speak specifically to North Berwyn, that has a little bit more crime, a little bit less police presence.
The way our city is set up, we're divided into zones from Roosevelt Road to 39th Street, from Harlem to Lombard. We're not planning on changing the zone configuration. If that answers your question?
It does, I appreciate that. And currently, are there any plans for further police budget increases, for additional upgrades for equipment or hiring in the near future?
Well, the only hiring we're doing now is replacing. So that's gonna fall into whatever the budget is. We're not planning on increasing any staff, to my nothing has come up. But again, we just started with the body cameras, so we're starting to see an increase in subpoenas and FOIAs and stuff for body cams, which in turn requires more staffing, because each video has to be gone through from the beginning to the end, has to be redacted, has to be viewed. It takes time.
Yeah, I imagine you're gonna need another tech guy too. There's a lot there. Yeah, I fully get it. That's actually all of my questions, and I really thank you for answering them.
Okay.
Thanks.
So some of these things I think we can, I can get answers to
Okay.
for all of this. We can maybe have another meeting or somehow get you the answers. Maybe.
I'm sure there's answers to the financial
Right,
part of it.
and the building.
And I would have to bring in the people that can answer those questions.
Or we can compile all that, give all the answers and bring down what you're saying.
I think the chief has people within the departments, within the finance department, that have those answers.
Well, our administration is laid
Steve.
out where it's me and the deputy chief. The deputy chief handles all of the internal investigations, and then it comes to me for final discipline or whatever. We also have 4 division commanders. Division commanders each have their own set of responsibilities that they are responsible for. I have one in charge of the budget, I have one in charge of specialized units and task forces, I have one in charge of patrol operations, one in charge of communications and rec. So they all have their own responsibility, and then my executive commander, who's also the commander on NIPUS, is in charge of policies and policy updating and policy changes, and then it's just a big gear, and it all works together simultaneously.
I'm sure we can get all that info you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Okay, now, I guess we took care of the open forum.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Anything else, Alderman?
Nope.
Chief?
No, sir.
Eli?
Nope,
Eli?
all set.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
I'll make a motion
Okay,
to adjourn.
Second.
okay, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, well, that ends our meeting. Thank you.
And then my understanding is just, this report, once it goes past city council, then this report becomes,
It's gonna be put online tomorrow.
right.
We're gonna put it on our website tomorrow, so.
And then I'll put it in the council packet too.
Right, right.
Yeah, we have a lot of programs and offer a lot of stuff that people didn't know we have.
Yes.
You can say that, yeah. Yeah, it was, I think that almost everybody who lives here should maybe get a better understanding.
And of what the police department's all about.
Yeah.
And what is being done in trying to offer and keep the citizens safe.
I think so.
Instead of just reading and listening to whatever.
You know, you never know what you're gonna hear or
Right.
just see, so it's important to kind of get your own and talk to somebody. So I appreciate you taking all the time tonight to answer all these questions.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you. It's a lot, I know. I mean,
And
Yeah.
as a new resident on my block, I'm glad you're here asking these questions.
I appreciate it. It's always good to see you.
It's always good to see you as well.
Yeah, I'll see you in a minute, right?
Yeah, well, I'll be parking and you'll be walking the dog. And
That's
then my dogs go wild.
Well, that is great.
No, but I can speak, I mean, Eli's interested in a lot of things. I'm setting up a meeting with the mayor, with him, just to get a better understanding of the Ogden Avenue project and how, just he wants to learn.
Oh, yeah.
He wants to be invested in the community he lives in. He wants to get involved in other ways.
I just,